the Torah from the saved from the Holocaust being brought in into its day. I'd like to ask Mr. George Friedman to come forward and to welcome everyone this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Evening such as this are bittersweet. On the one hand, we believe that it is of great importance to remind and inform the world of how there are times that man can sink below the level of animals and the world can sit quiet. On the other, we see over 60 years later how survivors can preserve, can be living witnesses to the atrocities of history and remind us all how we can continue to strive toward a better world. This evening is slightly different than once we have done in previous years. Previously, we have created these evenings of remembrance, and sitting among us was one of the most determined survivors of the Holocaust, whose very presence and whose words inspired us to start and continue these annual evenings. Mr. Abbie Beker is, sadly, no longer with us, but as tonight is dedicated to his memory, he lives on through the actions he inspired us to do. Remembering the Holocaust, reminding the world that the powerful world leaders, and even reminding ourselves, is a means to an end. If people can remember how crazy and obscene the world could be, it is our hope and prayer that it will stop such an event from ever happening again. We hope you will find this evening presentation to be provoking, interesting, and even somewhat disturbing. It is meant to be like that. We cannot forget the loss of life, the struggling and suffering so many of our brothers and sisters experienced just over 60 years ago. We pray that tonight's program will assist us all to remember and to not forget the horrible atrocities that can happen and the effort needed so that they will never, ever happen again. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Approximately 4 years ago, my late father, Abbie Beker, Ezra Ridgley, joined me here in the shul one Shabbos, and after services, we decided to participate in the men's class upstairs. About 5 minutes into the class, my father literally halted the class, led by Rabbi Mendel, and proceeded to admonish everyone who were present in the room. With fiery passion, he spoke of his disappointment that a caring, friendly community like we had, and that he saw at the TCS, would not have any Holocaust commemoration. There are some guys in the room tonight that were there that day, and they may have remembered that uprising. But it was George Friedman who took the bull by the horns and organized shortly after our first and subsequent Holocaust events annually at our shul. For that, George, My father, and more importantly the community, were and now are very grateful. Little did my father know that he was the architect of a platform that he was also building for himself, which I'll mention shortly. You see, my father went through the horrors of living in the Nazi-occupied Kovna ghetto, followed by being separated from his sisters and his mother, and he finally ended up in Dachau. The nightmares of terror and murder that surrounded him as a young teenager left him with emotional scars that were irreparable. He used to tell the story of shoveling cement into a pit and his friend standing beside him, who fell into the pit. With a friend drowning in the cement, the German guard struck his rifle into my father, as if to say, "You help him, and you will be joining him down there." To be given instructions that an informer had to be killed, or to be brave enough to escape the ghetto to get food for your family, could any of us see a teenager of today's generation taking on that responsibility? I think that when you take on these type of roles of survival, one develops a sense of fearlessness. That is probably why so many survivors were very successful in business, even though they came here with barely a penny in their pocket. My father made a successful life for himself after coming to Canada. I had the benefit of working side by side with him for the last 30 years in our fashion business. I also saw his relentless, fearless approach that he had in sales and running the business. I always say that life could be easily ended, his life could have easily ended at age 15, but instead my father got another 70 years of life. Along with my mother, Simi, they raised a family of 3 children, in me, my brother Stephen, my sister Mina, and they got nuggets from grandchildren and even grandchildren. Not to mention, of course, 2 lovely daughter-in-laws, Carla and Talia, and their son-in-law, Charlie. 2 years ago, I had the privilege of standing on this very spot here to introduce my father before his first public talk on his personal Holocaust experiences. Thank you, Rabbi Rothman, and thank you, George, for urging my father to speak, as this is a job he preferred to leave to other survivors. It was too painful to flesh out the memories and stories. Sometimes in life, timing is so critical, and my father used to always say about not putting off to tomorrow what you can do today. Well, 6 months later, after giving his speech, my father became sick and weak from a mysterious illness. 6 months after that, he passed away. It was as if this was the last important thing he needed to do before he left this world. For those of you who want to see it, the video is on the Kosher Tube archive. In a few days, my brother Stephen and I, with mixed emotions, will finish our 11 months of saying Kaddish for our father. It is our hope that Steve's kids, Shoshana and Taiji, and my kids, Dennis and Kelly, will not only see the dedication and perseverance that their respective fathers pursue to be at Minyan 3 times a day, but that they can continue the character trait of Kibud Avayim, honoring your father and mother, that our parents taught us. To conclude, I would like to mention that it meant so much to my father that he came to this new country and he got an opportunity through my maternal grandparents, Sam and Esther Kamen, to become self-sufficient and support a family. Because the war interrupted any chance for advanced education, he never got a chance to develop a profession beyond business. When Stephen became an actuary, that was a very proud moment for him. And he made sure that everyone knew that Stephen worked for one of Warren Buffett's companies. But the cherry on the cake was, came years later, when my father was to follow my son Dennis's educational career through his Schulich years, and when he went to Western Law School, where he just graduated a week ago, and then to know now that he was getting an opportunity at the big Bay Street firm of Davies Ward. Dennis, you made him so, so proud. In closing, I want to say publicly to my mom, Cindy, that you were the rock that helped Dad get through some very difficult times due to the emotional scars left by the war. You tend to every little win, and for a girl who grew up in Wosky, Toronto of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, it is amazing how you learn to cook dishes like Flemish sinnets and get filter fish with homemade horseradish, and to cater to my dad's Litvish tongue. Not having your partner of 60 years is extremely difficult and lonely, but you are blessed with a caring and loving family. On behalf of all the Beker family, thank you, Rabbi Rothman and George, for recognizing the patriarch of our family, Abbie Beker.
At this time we would like to ask Mrs. Abbie Beker to come forward to light the first of our 6 candles. The parsha of this week, Parsha Ba'alosecha, has within it, it has within it the various curses and prophecies that the Torah tells us very well may befall the Jewish people throughout history. 3,000 years ago, when the Torah was given, these prophetic visions were simply visions. Today, due to many atrocities throughout history, including, of course, the Holocaust itself, we have seen that many of these prophecies have already been manifest and have come true. And they have taught us that when the Jewish people reach out to Hashem and we become close to Hashem and follow His ways, then He will guard us against the cruelty and the animalistic actions of many of the people in the world. And throughout history, we have been privileged to be able to be the moral teachers of the world, and in doing so, the Almighty has guarded us and has stood with us. And there were times, as this week's Parsha prophesizes, when His guarding of us is turned away, and the cruelty of the world comes and stands before us. We envisioned this in the destructions of the temples in history, but we certainly could see this ourselves with the atrocities of the Holocaust just a number of decades ago. It is certainly incumbent upon us as a way to remind us of the importance and following of the traditions and the lifestyle of the Jewish people, to remember these atrocities, to set up evenings as we are this evening, to remember what has happened to the Jewish people in these times. And so too, it is certainly with gratitude both to Mr. Abbie Beker, who should rest in peace, and to Bodo L'chaim, to my good friend Mr. George Friedman and his wife Vera, for inspiring our community to have these evenings, to give us the opportunity and to hand on to our children the opportunity to be able to realize what can happen in the world and how important it is for us to remember and to beseech the Almighty to be with us and to assist us in guarding us against such times and atrocities as we experienced with the destruction of European Jewry. As we continue throughout this evening, we will be asking various individuals to come forward and to light a candle, one for each of the million, corresponding to the 6 million Jews who were killed in such a short period of time. We began with Mrs. Abbie Beker, and I'm going to ask Ron Becker to come forward again. He's going to be reading a poem, but before he does, we ask that he would light the second of the 6 candles.
The Ark of Torah, of faith, of learning, stands empty and bereft. We have come here to remember those who cannot be forgotten. We have come to speak of that which cannot be spoken, but must not be left unsaid. We have come to remind not others, but ourselves, of what was done and what was not done. We have come to ask questions that cannot be answered, but cannot be left unasked. We know how to remember the dead we have known. We know how to commemorate the death of one person. But all of us are mourners. All of us recall not one, but 6 million ones. Not only those we have known, but those no one can know, the names that are forever lost.
At this time, we will ask everyone to put their attention to the screen, and we want to thank Sammy Friedman for his assistance in putting this together.
This presentation, which was put together, is coming from a very, very old Yad Vashem book, which probably had been produced about 40 to 50 years ago, calling to Yad Vashem, wanted to find out when it had been published and why there is no date on it, because they want to make sure that this will always be alive and people will always see it and know about it. How we got hold of this one, it actually came from Bucharest, where an acquaintance of mine who is a priest bought it for me on an auction. And if anybody who would like to see the book itself, after the presentation tonight, when we're going to have some discussion in the library, anybody who can come to look at it. There's a very interesting thing. One of the pictures actually will show you Elie Wiesel in the concentration camp. Thank you.
times that we spoke, he told me about his grandfather, and how his grandfather would go from location to location. He would speak to Jews, to non-Jews, to young people, to older people, about his experiences and the experiences of the Jewish people during the Holocaust. And throughout our learning, every once in a while we'd take a break and he'd tell me a little bit more. And I finally decided I was going to speak to Mr. Friedman and tell him about this opportunity we had that perhaps we could convince Toby's grandfather to come and to speak with us as well. So this evening we have that honor to be able to have Mr. Felix Opatowski, who's going to say a few words for us. First, before he does, there's a short video that we have of a presentation about him. And then following that, we've asked that he'll come forward and speak and answer a few questions about his experiences and about what you'll be watching in this video.
We arrived at Auschwitz station at night. I don't know what time it was, but it was dark. When the doors of the cattle cars opened, light shone on us and we heard our voice shouting in German. I'll never forget this. This voice announced that there were
trucks standing by, and whoever couldn't get to a truck would be shot. We all jumped down from the train, running, pushing each other. Everybody wanted to get to those trucks. Some of our people started yelling, "Here they are! Here they are!" The trucks had their headlights on and the motors were running. Then the trucks started moving. Although I was very weak from the 2 or 3 days on the train, I tried hard.
There was room on the truck, but I think it left on purpose. I made my way toward another truck, but I couldn't run anymore. That truck was left too. Again, I think the driver did it on purpose. I thought to myself, after all the misery I went through in the past 2 years in the labor camp, this is my end? The Germans did not make idle threats.
I heard dogs barking and saw a lot of bright lights. The Germans began yelling, "Line up in fives, line up in fives." The Germans, it was always 5, 5, 5. Now I saw men with striped uniforms. I tried to ask them questions, but the only thing they said was, line up, be quiet. Don't say anything. When they ask your age, if one of you are too young, don't tell the truth. If one of you are too old, don't tell the truth.
I figured that if they were going to line us up as ages, they weren't planning on shooting us. I started feeling safer. We had no clue.
An SS officer did our first selection. We didn't know what he was selecting us for. He asked a few people their ages, and according to the answer, sent them to the right or to the left. One way led to the gas chambers, the other to work. A few days after our arrival at Auschwitz, I wondered what happened to the ones who had made it to the trucks. I had spent almost 2 years with some of those men in the labor camps. Many were my friends.
Apparently the Germans had played a trick on us. They took the guys who made it to the truck right to the gas chamber, and they put the rest of us in quarantine in Birkenau. I never heard of that kind of a selection again. Clearly, it was not my time to die. I'm Felix Opatowski, and my book is Gatehouse to Hell. I was born in Lodz, the second largest city in Poland. In Lodz was approximately 200,000 or more Jews. In 3-4 weeks, the Germans took already whole Poland. When they marched in, everything is closed. Then a week later, or 10 days later, the Jews have to put in the Star of David, one on the back and one on the front. Sometimes in April, the Lodz had to close up. I probably didn't eat for at least 10 days in a row. There was nothing, absolutely nothing. And that was the beginning of the worst time in my life. You cannot explain what it means, hunger. It's impossible. By the time you don't eat on the 3rd day, you start getting headaches. And you don't know really what the headaches are because your brain is not working normal. You're hungry. You start getting violent, agitated, and you don't know what to do with yourself. Now comes the worst part of being hungry. Sleep. You can't fall asleep when you're hungry. There was no such a thing that anybody being tough in Auschwitz. As tough as you've been, the faster you're going to the gas chamber. If the Nazis didn't kill you, if the gas chamber didn't kill you, the coppers kill you. If the coppers don't kill you, it's the blockers that kill you. And if they don't kill you, those other guys can grab a piece of bread for you, and if you yell out or resist it, they can kill you. It was impossible to go one day without being killed. It is very important that you have somebody you could lean on. Jacob never had a brother. He was about 5 years older than me. So he took it to me like I would be his younger brother. And little by little, we really helped each other. We helped a lot. He came 3 weeks before me. So he's a somebody already, right? And 3 weeks in Auschwitz, when you're head of another guy, that's prime. But you know what to do, you know where to go, and you know where the gas is. Jacob explained to me, anything what you're going to do on your own, it's not going to be good. You're going to eat on your own, it's not good. You're going to pee on your own, it's not good. Whatever you're going to do, it's not good. You all have to go with a group together. So you're not going to be sort of like sticking out like a sore finger, where you say. And we start talking about gas chambers, who heard them, this is your name, all these things happen in a few days, 2 weeks maybe. I said, it's connected. Now you're telling me the smell is from the smell is from our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. I said, yes. And right away, my mind came to my mother and my father and my brother, you know. Those things what you hear, it's not normal things, but they are existing. I have been in Canada since 1949. We didn't have a family, I made a family. My wife, 4 kids, 5 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. I'm the luckiest man alive.
Fine. So initially, are there any questions around any subject? Yes, Steve.
So a question that I have is, did you, after surviving, was your mindset that you wanted to take revenge or not? And if not, how could you, carry on?
Since from what time on is the question? When you're talking from the time I left the camp, or 5 years later, or 10 years later?
Well, just after you were free, how did you carry on your life and not just be totally consumed by thoughts of revenge?
You mean after I was liberated?
Yes.
Huh. Quite a few years back, but I still remember. I still remember every day from the camp, every hour from the camp, and I was 5 years in it. But the very first week when I was liberated was a concentration camp by the name of Abbie in Austria. This camp was built for about 5,000 inmates. And by the time they finished it up, there was 20,000 inmates in the camp. And we built, as you probably know, everybody knows about these rockets the Germans were building by the Baltic Sea, and they were bombarded by the Americans and British and destroyed them. So they're looking for places where they can build more of these rockets. And one of the places was also where I was in Abbie. And we start digging ditches for it, we start digging a hole. Everything was possible, but got to be fast, 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 because the Americans were not far away. It was actually, the camp was built only to liquidate of the Jews. That was their zeal. And when they came with machineries and whatever they have built for building the rockets, wasn't so easy for them that they should walk there and make it these rockets. I don't know how they done it, but they never succeeded.
If I'm correct, Steve, you mean like kind of mentally move forward? What Steve means is, how do you put it in your heart and in your head to move forward and not have hatred so much, but also to still move forward in life and in love and to live your life?
Is that what your question was? Well, it's not easy for me to explain this to you. It's because when I was liberated with quite a few my friends and few people which I know it and so on, quite a few just went mentally. I know a few people which went to Queen Street, and I went to visit them quite a bit, and they already gone. It's like my grandson explained to you about the hunger. It is not easy to explain and to talk about it. I started 15 years ago for all over Canada, in Poland, and quite a few things, making the speeches or representing myself and talking about it and explaining. Mostly was done it to the Christian children from 10 to 25 up. I explained this to them, and I was very successful at it, and they're still sending me letters to thank you for it. And meanwhile, I wrote a book, like you've seen it here, the road to hell, and if I supposed to tell you guys everything about me, it's going to be a long time. So I would rather have questions from you guys and answer the questions than making my representation short. Go ahead.
Yes, just wondering if you could recall any Jewish holidays in the camps. Did anything happen? Was there any kind of rituals that were done?
In the camps, do they try to keep it in the holidays?
In the camp. Well, one thing I can tell you, we had Yom Kippur every day.
Do you remember anyone trying to keep one of the holidays or attempting to keep on some of the...
Well, first of all, I'm talking about Auschwitz. I was 2 years in Auschwitz. Let's talk about Auschwitz, because the other camps, of course, not so well known. For instance, when you get to Auschwitz, when you made it to get to Auschwitz, you go in naked and you come out with the Auschwitz uniform. The Auschwitz uniform has pants, a jacket, no underwear, no socks, and no packets. Because they make it sure that you have nothing, no packets in your racks or whatever it is. And quite a few times this came in handy for me if I would have packets, because I was involved in the uprising in Auschwitz in October 7, 1944. We demolished, wasn't on, okay. We had I was getting dynamite from Jewish girls which worked in a factory right next to Auschwitz. This dynamite I smuggled in to different way to the women's camp. But the women's camp was never looked around. The women's camp never was looked at by the Gestapo what they have. And when came the day that we should already do something about it, because that was the time when the Hungarian, I don't know how many Hungarians came, but I think it was close between 300 or close to 500,000 Hungarians came into Auschwitz. And that was our doing, because we knew what was going to happen to these Hungarians, and it was already 1944. So we demolished, and we burned, and whatever we could do, we done it, and we demolished all crematoriums in Auschwitz. Speaking of Auschwitz, Auschwitz was divided in a few sections, and this was Birkenau. And that's why I happened to be, it was my luck to be in Birkenau. But then again, I was lucky to get a good job. And my job was repairing, you've probably seen it, repairing the wires, the electric wires in Auschwitz. So when the Polish, there were lots of Polacks in Auschwitz, the Polish were ex-officers, which they tried to get information from them. Nobody knows why, because the Polish was down already a long time ago, but for some reason they wanted to hold it. And the Polacks came to my barrack and told me they want to talk to me, and so we went out, we saw the way. If you want to talk to somebody, then nobody should know what you're talking about, or be interfered with it. So we just marched up to the washroom, and we walked back, and you talk whatever you want to do. And whenever I needed something, they always came to my barrack, and they made with a hat like this. I went out, we went to the washroom, and told me, they gave me reports, and they told me what to do, and so on.
Confronting the Abyss. The last words of Yaakov David ben Yoel Tzvi Halevi. 4 times I was born, and once already I have died. My first birth was accompanied by the joyful voices of my parents and my 8 brothers and sisters when I came into the world, with the help of God, may He be blessed, 25 years ago. I was born 3 other times over the past 10 years, during which time I also died once. After that death, no death could ever frighten me. The second time I was born was on the night of the selection, when they gathered all the males in the town to the central square. The stars had disappeared, and only the yellow patches flickered in the darkness. We were told to form a long line and strip to the waist. One by one, we passed by the light of a dim oil lamp near a devil dressed in black, who with the wave of a hand directed to the left or to the right, At once I realized the strong and sturdy were being sent to one side, and the young and aged to the other. Hastily, I filled my shoes with dirt to gain a few centimeters in height. Swelling my chest, I even walked on my toes as I passed by him. I was sent with the sturdy. Later we heard the shots, and I knew that my life had been given to me as a gift. Blessed be his name. The third time I was born, when 1,000 of us were taken to walk in front of soldiers on a battlefield. The area was full of mines, and we formed a living wall before the troops. Each and every day our numbers diminished as comrades ripped apart were left behind as food for the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. 78 of us survived the march. I felt that our lives began anew when we finally reached the barn where we were favored with our daily portion of thin soup. Blessed be the Lord each day. The fourth time, I was born later that night. I had left the barn for the yard behind it, where I managed to catch sight of a spark from a match and the sickening smile of one who had lit it. Since the living wall had fulfilled its mission, it was no longer needed. The barn went up in flames, and all my comrades soared heavenward on the flaming pyre, a sacrificial offering ascending to God. May he be blessed. Whoever has been born 4 times will not die only once. My death came to me after I had fled from the sight of the fire. I was captured by locals and forced into a boxcar on its way to the place where work makes one free. An orchestra greeted us, and all of us were led, holding soap and a towel, to wash our sweat-covered bodies. The smell of flesh on fire confused our senses. The soap seemed to be burning in our hands, and the orchestra was playing. Thanks to God's mercies for me, I was removed from the line at the last moment and did not become part of the naked mass shoved into the room so savagely. The door slammed with a deafening noise, and from the room burst forth sounds that no words can adequately describe. The howling hiss of gas, streaming and accompanied by a mingling of faint and feeble cries. Shema Israel, and Mamala, the Lord our God, and Madchai, the Lord is one, and Tatala, followed by a low, murmuring sound. Here my task began, to remove the bodies, to pull out gold teeth, to shove the dead into the oven. When I pulled out the teeth of my brother Lazar, whom I had not seen for years, my heart died within me. My body continued to live, but I became one of the walking dead. The Lord gave me life, and the Lord took it away. May the name of the Lord be blessed. How the Master of the universe is taking such trouble to ensure that we would lose our faith in him. Yet, in spite of his wrath and his rage, we have refused to succumb. When I die again, tear not your garments, mourn not, for there is no death after death. Do not even attempt to ask why. What I have not accomplished for myself, let others not try to accomplish on my behalf.
Stephen was lighting the Sickman final candle, symbolic of the 6 million Jews. We'd like to ask Dr. David Suriel to come forward. We'll be reciting the Kalmar Rachamim prayer for us. And as he does, we would ask everyone to please rise.
Kanefei.                                                                                                             '
הנשמות של 6 מיליוני היהודים, חללי השואה באירופה, שנהרגו, שנשחטו, שנשרפו ונספו, על קידוש השם בידי המרצחים הגרמנים ועוזריהם משאר העמים. לכן בעל הרחמים יסירם בסדר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני יכון נחלתם בגן עדן, תהי מנוחתם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימים, ונאמר אמן.
We have been privileged over the last number of years to be able to have these special evenings of remembrance. We have throughout the year a number of things that we have within our shul, within the building, to remember and to inspire us about the atrocities of the Holocaust. We began by having the children enter, each one carrying a candle symbolic, as we have here, of 1 million of the 6 million Jews who were killed. And we followed it with a Torah that you see here, and we keep it in the building all year. That was given to us by the Taylor family, which is a Torah that was saved from the Holocaust and has been carried on as a remembrance for us, which we keep in the lobby throughout the entire year. This evening, no different than the others, gives us the ability and the occasion to be able to think back and to remind ourselves of the importance of not forgetting those who did not survive, those who lost their lives on behalf of the Jewish people, and the pain and suffering that those who did survive had and continue to have throughout their lives. We certainly, those of us who were born afterwards, certainly owe a great debt to these people for continuing and carrying on as part of the Jewish nation and making it possible for us to be able to carry on today. We'd like to thank everyone for joining with us this evening, and we'd like to also thank George Revere Friedman for sponsoring a reception, which will be held in just a few moments across the way in the base medrash in the library. Everyone is welcome to go there. And all of the people who participate in the program will be there with us, so if you have any questions or you'd like to speak with them, you have that opportunity at this time. So everyone is welcome to join us, and again, we would like to thank George and Vera for making the reception possible. It's just across the way, and please join us for a few moments to